You know how they say truth is stranger than fiction? Well, today I've got 3 real-life stories that'll make you wonder if that's actually an understatement. But before we jump in, if you're into creepy, unsettling, and downright mysterious true stories, you're in the right spot. That's all we do here, and we drop a new one every week. So if you're liking what you hear, do us a solid. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Alright, let's get into it. Story number 1. The man who chained himself to die. On the morning of February 20th, 1881, a sheriff's posse was combing the woods of Hill County, Texas, a quiet rural area back then, thick with trees and not much else. They were searching for George Arnold, a hard-working dad with 7 kids, who'd vanished from his home 2 days earlier. Now George was a regular churchgoer. Every Sunday without fail, he'd head to service with his wife and all their children. But that Sunday, out of nowhere, he told them he wanted to stay home. No reason given. Totally out of character. So his family went without him. When they got back, George was gone. No signs of a break-in. No mess. Nothing seemed off. Except for a letter he'd left behind for his wife. In it, he said he'd gone into the woods and begged her not to follow. Fast forward 2 days. The search party finally stumbles into a clearing deep in the forest. In the middle stands this massive tree. And at its base, George. But this wasn't just a case of someone collapsing in the woods. What they found was disturbing. George was dead, but that wasn't even the first thing that hit them. It was how he died. He was chained by the ankle to the tree, a heavy iron chain locked tight with a padlock. No key in sight. He was completely naked, his clothes torn up and tossed in a heap beside him. His body was covered in cuts and marks that looked like bite wounds, but not from an animal. These looked human. Then they noticed these little white things on the ground like pebbles, but when they got closer, they were teeth. His teeth. The tree behind him was gouged with deep, ragged marks, like someone had been biting into the wood so hard they shattered their own teeth. And scattered among the teeth, his fingernails, torn clean out from clawing at the bark. Everything pointed to one horrifying conclusion. George had done this to himself. So what drove a man to this? Turns out, not long before, George had been bitten by a dog, and that dog had rabies. Now today, a rabies bite is scary but treatable. Back in 1881, it was a death sentence. Once symptoms hit, there was no cure. Just agony, delirium, and a slow, terrifying end. George, a deeply religious man, knew what was coming. He also knew rabies could make him violent, dangerous to his family, but suicide. That went against everything he believed. So instead, he made a different choice. He wrote that letter, walked into the woods, chained himself to a tree, and faced his fate alone. Sparing his loved ones from both the horror and the risk, his final act wasn't cowardice, it was sacrifice. Story number 2. The Letter from Hell. There's one name in criminal history that's basically become a synonym for evil. Jack the Ripper. This guy didn't just kill, he butchered. And he was never caught. We don't know who he was, why he did it, or how many more he might have gotten away with. No manifesto. No confessions, nothing, except one time, one chilling piece of evidence that might be the only real message we ever got from him, and it's known forever as From Hell. It's October 12, 1888. George Lusk, a 49-year-old businessman, walks into his East London home after a long day. He picks up his mail, bills, party invites, and then at the bottom of the pile a postcard and a letter, both addressed to him, both signed with a name that had London paralyzed in fear. Because over the last 2 months, 4 women had been brutally murdered in Whitechapel, the same neighborhood where Lusk lived. The latest victim? A middle-aged woman killed just 2 weeks earlier, practically around the corner. Terrified, Lusk had recently helped form a neighborhood watch to try to catch the killer. In fact, just days before, he'd looked out his window and saw a rough-looking guy with a thick beard lurking in an alley across the street, staring right at his house. It creeped him out so bad he pulled the blinds and even filed a police report. They couldn't do much. Just man seen standing around. Now holding these letters, his blood ran cold. This wasn't just a prank. The writer mocked his watch group, bragged he could kill 2 tomorrow night, and said there was nothing anyone could do to stop him. Lusk ran straight to the police. They read the letters and agreed they felt real. But what could they do? No names, no locations, just a threat hanging in the air. The next couple days passed, and nothing happened. No murders. Lusk started to think it was all a sick joke. Then, on October 16th, for days after getting the mail, he came home to find a small package wrapped in brown paper on top of his usual letters. Inside, a letter that began, "From hell." And beneath it, half of a human kidney. The note explained that this was the other half of the kidney taken from that last victim, because the killer had fried and ate the first half. This, he wrote, was a gift for George Lusk. To this day, many experts believe this gruesome package is the only authentic communication ever sent by Jack the Ripper. Story number 3. The Lightning Call asterisk. May 21st, 1985. Around 7 p.m. in Scotch Plains, New Jersey, a quiet suburb. 17-year-old Jason Finley sits on the edge of a bed in his grandma's guest room. Outside, a massive thunderstorm is pounding the neighborhood. Rain's been coming down all day, so Jason's been stuck inside with his twin cousins and his grandmother. Earlier that week, he'd nervously told them he wanted to call this girl he'd been seeing, Kathy, and finally ask her to be his girlfriend. They'd ribbed him non-stop about it. So now, finally alone, he picks up the landline, takes a deep breath and dials. She answers. Her voice is sweet, familiar. In that moment, all his nerves vanish. He's about to ask the question, and then zap. A blinding, searing pain explodes in the back of his head, and just like that, he's gone. Down the hall, Grandma calls everyone to dinner. The twins show up. Jason doesn't. After a minute, she sends them to check on him. They walk in and start screaming. She rushes in to find Jason slumped over, the phone still pressed to his ear, completely unresponsive. She calls 911. EMTs race him to the hospital, but it's too late. Jason's dead. Here's the thing, he was perfectly healthy. No heart conditions. No known illnesses. Doctors were stumped. We don't know what happened, they told his family. He just died. But his family refused to accept that. They pushed for a full forensic autopsy. At first, it seemed to confirm the hospital's conclusion, no clear cause of death. But then the medical examiner noticed something odd. Jason had a ruptured eardrum. That, combined with the timing, right in the middle of a violent lightning storm, led to the horrifying truth. Lightning had struck a telephone pole outside the house. The surge traveled through the phone line, straight into the receiver Jason was holding. The current shot through his head, stopping his heart instantly. Kathy later said she knew he was about to ask her to be his girlfriend, and if he had, she would have said yes. Thanks so much for watching. Drop a comment below. What story shook you the most? And if you're new here, we've got hundreds of true, strange, and haunting stories for you to dive into. But if you want my top recommendation, the one you have to watch next, it's right here. Go check it out. Until next time, stay curious.